Hello everybody, Kearon here with Explorminate, and welcome to the last video in this series for Sanctus Reach. Not gonna lie, I'm a little sad it's over. I had a lot more fun with this series than I thought I would. I didn't know, I'd played some of those missions before, and I was like, I'll just retread on similar ground to show things off. It was actually more fun replaying it than I thought, which I'll talk about a little bit later with the replayability of the game and how it's a definite strength, but like my other overview videos, this is going to focus on the good, the bad, the fun. I'm going to kind of try to keep this lighthearted without, really bogging down into review territory here, as these are supposed to just give you an idea of what the game is. So, again, going to be playing lightly while I'm going over my notes and things like that. So, keep that in mind. So, to start with the good. I want to say this does have a very, I said decent, but I think decent is probably not fair enough to the game. A good level of strategy to the game. Now, when I say good level of strategy, that can mean a lot of things, right? I've compared this to XCOM 2 before. Squad-based shooter. Obviously, it's a lot bigger squad, complete with war machines and such, but it does a good job at that vein of a game by providing you with cover, strategic choices to make. Not as in depth as other squad-based shooters, yes, because it is large scale, but there is a definite, rock, paper, scissors plus mechanism. What I mean by that is, you've got certain counters and stuff, but it's not just a simple A beats B, B beats C, and then C beats A, No classic, just rock, paper, scissors. There's more to it than that. That's built on a couple levels. Obviously, there's things like the morale and the defenses, so where you're parked. There's other things like, hey, where am I going to move my speeder bike here? And what's my chance to hit? And how effective is this weapon against another weapon? Things like that, which really do mimic, again, as I've mentioned before, the board game quite well. I feel like it's a pretty darn good. I'm not gonna say like the word spiritual successor came to mind. That's not what I'm looking for. It's a good conversion of the tabletop to PC, about as good as most of their games, and that is one reason why this strategy I think is as strong as it is, because the base game that this is built off of, that this is basically pulled from, the tabletop game, is nothing to snark at. There's a lot there. Years and years of rules built upon. And the fact that they've taken that and converted that to the game is pretty fun. They didn't have to go from the ground up with, this weapon counters this weapon or such. They mostly converted it over, and that strengthens the game. It gives it, whether you're looking at it from like a narrative perspective, the struggle between the space Vikings here, and or the space Vikings, the space wolves here, and the orcs is played out, I think, quite faithfully from the, how it should be for Warhammer 40k. Along with that, there is a lot to do in the game. Now, what I mean by that, you have just a ton of missions. I don't know if it's 4 dozen. I looked a little bit before this, didn't get a number that I wrote down, but there was something like, I want to say like a dozen and a half missions in the one campaign, and about 2 dozen in the other, at least, if not more. I'm pretty sure it was more there. If you're a single player person, I guess maybe Google that a little better than I did there. But a lot of replayability, and I'd say these missions on average probably take, 30, 45 minutes from my experience. And so you're looking at a really big set of core content there for just the single player game, which again is scripted and things like that. But it is narratively driven, and they do put effort into making the missions different. Sure, there might not be just tons of different options. You might see some repeats, but it felt fresh enough that it wasn't just a reskin every level from what I've played. The variation was there enough. And again, we're just talking about the single player game. We're not even talking about the skirmish or the ability to play multiplayer or the ability to do uh, custom games with the map editor, which we didn't really dive too much into. That is all there. So if you're looking at just like a cost benefit, well, a cost to like hour ratio, this game does a very good job with that, providing you enough to do to keep you interested for a while. And again, I don't think it's. I feel comfortable saying from what I've played, it's not to the level of something like XCOM, where you're 30 hours in XCOM 2 and you're like, what in the heck did I just run into? What is this crazy alien thing? And it's always throwing new curveballs at you. You've kind of seen the majority of the features you're going to run into, minus things like artillery, maybe a little bit of magic, which you might see here in a second. Things like that. Well, space magic. It's not magic, of course. I don't. Space magic. We'll leave it there. But there's that. So there's, the good again. Good level of strategy, satisfying gameplay, and lots to do, which I feel like are pretty important parts for a game. Now, the bad. The first one and the most limiting, I guess, part of the game is just the AI. The AI is pretty terrible. I feel like a lot of missions, they throw so many orcs at you because they don't do a lot. They'll make a lot of moves and they won't always shoot. They don't utilize cover the best. There's not a lot of real strategy. It mostly seems like it's like the goblins there, for example. Why did they run back? There's no reason for that. They should be mauling me. All these goblins should be charging and shooting their little pitiful guns that won't do much, but they still should be trying to do something. They're doing nothing. That's a shame, because the game could do a lot more if the AI was better. All the benefits I just mentioned, the strategy, the replayability, all that would be so improved if the AI was better, but it's not. And it's pretty, I'm going to use the word bad. Not that it can't function or things like that, but it's just, you're not going to be challenged too much from what I've seen and from what I've experienced. So that's that. If you're someone that AI is really important, it's going to break a game for you, might wait till a sale or something, because you're not going to be satisfied. Now, if you're more interested in a 40,000 game or 40K game, right? You're okay if the AI is kind of how you've seen it there. It doesn't have to be the brightest tool in the shed, right? You can get by that, but it is something that is noticeable again and again, and is a shame. The other big negative here, that I'm going to say, the other portion of the bad, is going to be the limited number of factions that I've seen. Now, I know the scope of the game, and I don't know if this was limited by, copyright agreements and things. This is obviously a licensed game from Game Workshop, owns the property there and stuff. But it is just kind of a shame. There's just space wolves and orcs. I mean, if this game had come out even with like a DLC plan or something for double the cost of the game originally, or 3 times or something, you added in your Eldar, your Tyranids, Imperial Guard, maybe other, you can do Blood Angels, Chaos, whatever, you name it, right? Then this game would instantly, even with, the weaker AI and things like that, be like, whoa, this is awesome. Like, you can, get your big old armies together and you can play the different units, and sure, they're not that different, but they look different, and that's cool. And, that's the biggest kick in the teeth, I guess, considering the replayability is so good, is that you're playing the same faction. Well, the two same races, excuse me, there. Which, again, I guess you just kind of have to take in stride. Is that something that's really going to be a hindrance to you, or can you get by that? For me, it hasn't impeded me from enjoying the game so far, but I know it's something that would add to the fatigue the game would carry with it otherwise, normally, which is the nature of what has been created here. The other thing here, this isn't really good or bad. This is kind of medium. So we're going to take a little detour from the normal route here. Just worth mentioning the graphics there and the animations. They're pretty good. They're not amazing, especially where it's a turn-based game. I feel like maybe this is the XCOM 2 and me talking. That game looks it's a higher level of graphical fidelity, right? That being said, it's not like this game is and I say this respectfully as I guess I can. It's not like indie level graphics, right? Sometimes you have indie games which you can tell the developer's more focused on the gameplay than the graphics, and that is completely fine. That is up to the developer, but for me, graphics matter. So this game kind of walks the line there of where maybe I wish it could be and where it is. You do have blood spatters there, and you have smoke. Now those blood spatters remind me, and I know it looks better than Warcraft 2 did if I went back and compared the screenshots, but that reminds me of something I would see from like Warcraft 2 when I was a kid, right? I look at other things like the smoke coming out of the machine here, or the fire, or the explosions. I'm like, well, that really isn't too bad. And then, of course, the map is just kind of a wash. But again, that's I thought, when I was getting ready for this, is that a benefit? Are the graphics good enough to talk about benefit? Are they maybe not quite where I might want them, to where it's a limitation? I don't think it's either. It's just basically a wash there. But there's that, and again, you've seen the full spectrum of the graphics and what that includes, and you know what that would include at this point because you've seen the game with the animations and things. So yeah, so let's bring it home with the fun. Because again, as always, that's why I play video games, is to have fun. If you're not having fun playing video games, you are doing something terribly wrong, and you should reconsider your entire life. No, I'm joking. But seriously, for me, that's why I play games. So I'm not gonna worry about other things necessarily if I'm having fun. First most important thing, I get an inkling from times, and this is partially because I grew up playing tabletop games with my dad and family and stuff like that, to bust out a Warhammer game or do a 40K or a skirmish, something old school like Hero Quest, if you know what that is, or a D&D campaign, stuff like that, right? And that's expensive to get into, right? Have some friends at work trying to get me to play some 40K, and I've never really taken the full dive on an army, and I'm like, that'd be awesome, but like, I just don't got like $600 sitting around. And yes, you can play 40K for a lot less than $600, but to really play and have a unit diversity and stuff like that, I know I'd be looking at $600, and that's the conservative figure. I mean, you and I know that's going to be a lot more before I'm done with my Space Wolves army, because I probably would do Space Wolves. This hits that itch quite well for just a fraction of the price, and I'm not even talking about like possible hours you could sink in this game. I'm talking about the fact that this is a heavy bolter group. They've got their weapon stats, and this is converted over into a computer game version of the tabletop game pretty well. Again, not all the rules are there. That's fine. It doesn't have to be a tabletop simulator, but it's pretty close, and that was actually what I liked most about it. We have things like Dawn of War 3 coming out. You have stuff like Vermintide that's out, to World of War, Warhammer, Battlefleet Gothic, right? There's all these different takes of all these different games out there right now, of different Games Workshop properties. And this one just said, hey, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let's just take what we have and what the game already has presented us, and just use that. Just convert the tabletop game, and it makes for a lot of fun. It really does, and it doesn't feel like a cheap gimmick. It's enjoyable. It's straightforward. If you're sort of familiar, if you've ever played like 40k for like 2 hours, you know the weapon's probably enough to be like, okay, yeah, this one does this, and this one kind of is better against these types. That's great. That made it fun for me. And then also with that, besides, it was a nice conversion of the tabletop, and it's satisfying in what it presents to you as a computer game, as opposed to the tabletop, obviously. It's easy to play, and I'm going to say it's like a relaxed XCOM Lite. Now, I don't use XCOM Lite as in, oh yeah, this is a dumbed down version. It's just like it's the kiddie version. No, I'm not saying that. This is not at all. I'm saying where I play XCOM 2 and I'll be like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Just like stressing, and like the end of the night I'm like, wow, I gotta relax from work and from playing XCOM 2 now, because like I am stressed and I lost my guy, right? This scratches that same itch along the same vein as something like XCOM might, but it's a lot more relaxed, a lot more casual. You can just play a game a night. If you lose, whatever, just boot up a save. It's not like you customize these guys. They're dying for the Emperor anyways, right? So they're happy. You're happy. We're all happy. Let's attack this tree. And that's it. I mentioned that in the fun section because it allows you to have fun playing the game. It's not as high stress, and yeah, the campaigns kind of build on each other, and you're trying to liberate the world and stuff. But it's just like, oh sweet, like I got an Imperial Knight showing up, awesome. Or like, oh cool, I got this attachment of land speeders. Let's use that. That's pretty cool that showed up. Like, you just have fun killing stuff, and it's not too difficult. I mean, you can't be stupid, but from what I've played, it's a relaxed, enjoyable game, and that's been a selling point for me, both in preparing for this overview series and then doing that. It's not a chore to play this. Sometimes we get games and we cover them. I'm gonna be honest, I don't enjoy covering as much, but it's like, hey, we said we're gonna do this. We want to get this coverage. We got the key. Let's do it for the fans, right? This has been a treat. It's been fun. And I can honestly say I've enjoyed playing it. Now, am I gonna spend dozens or hundreds of hours playing it? No, not at all. Other games, life, will limit how much I'll play this. I probably won't ever beat the full campaign, but the time I've had is well spent, I'd say. So, there we have it, I guess. Just in a nutshell there, my thoughts, my impressions on Sanctus Reach. Again, just to recap there. So the good, we've got a decent level of strategy, whether that's weapon types, cover systems, things like that. That is satisfying and deep enough to, scratch your strategy itch, but not so much that it's going to bog you down. And also the game has a lot to do with it, right? Campaign, custom maps, you name it. The weaker points, the bad, AI, no way around that. No way to mince words. It's there. It moves the AI and has them shoot at you, and not tons more always. And then, of course, limited factions is kind of a letdown for me, because I would just love to be able to annihilate orcs or whatever in many other fashions than presented in the game. And then, of course, to end with the fun again, just recap that. Good conversion of the tabletop game. Cheaper, and still, I think, a pretty good adaptation. If you're looking for something similar there, something easier to play, you can play at night without getting together with friends, but still feels like Warhammer 40k to a good degree. And then, obviously, it's a relaxed, squad-based game. The kind you can sit down and play and just enjoy your time. It's not going to be as high stress as others. So there we have it, guys. Sanctus Reach. Appreciate you watching this series. Let me know what you think of it. And if you have any other questions or comments, I'll do check back with YouTube from time to time there, every couple days at least, if I'm not uploading stuff already. To just see, if you got questions or comments, always try to answer them when I can. So as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking out this series, and we'll catch you next time. Until then, thanks.